Good morning, everybody. It's Mike Kesselnick. Happy 2012 for our first call 2012. Thanks, everybody, for being on. Hope you had a good holiday season and you're ready to get at it. As you may recall, this is your time to pick my brain. This is your time to ask questions, tell me what's going well, what's going poorly, and for us to work as a team to get those things are going poorly working well, and things are going well to share that with everybody so we can all benefit from that. So, again, this is your time to pick my brain. So if you've got questions, make sure that you either, if you're on a phone, you can raise your hand and Missy will put you through, or if you're on a headset or on a computer, she'll raise your hand, put you through, or you can actually type in your questions. So, and also, please, if somebody would be willing to be my sounding board, somebody would be willing to answer some questions, and as we go through this, it's beneficial to everybody. So if you're willing to be my sounding board and go back and forth with me so that you can benefit and everybody else can benefit, go ahead and raise your hand as well, and that would be very, very helpful. So with that said, Missy, is anybody raising their hands with questions or to be a volunteer?
Let's see. I don't have any hands raised at the moment, so maybe just give us another minute here and we'll see. Oh, I do have one. Steve has agreed to volunteer here. So, Steve, I've opened up your line. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Now, are you willing to be my volunteer, or do you have a question for us, or both?
I'll be your volunteer.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. What I want to talk about today is how we can work, or how I learned to work a lot smarter instead of harder, because I used to work really, really hard and got very, very little forward. I was on a treadmill, putting in a lot of hours, doing a lot of proposals, and getting very little for that. And when I figured out what I was doing wrong, I was able to work half as much and make almost 7 times more. So I want to go through and with you my experience, and hopefully you can benefit from that and mimic that. So let's see here. Keep going. So you may remember my history, and for those of you that don't, I was in the industry for a full 7 years, and had never made more than $50,000 in a year. 7 years, never made more than $50,000 a year, and I was working hard. But at that point, my wife, who was a doctor at the Mayo Clinic, after 7 years of making $50,000, she pointed out that after expenses, we were not making enough to pay for my 2 kids in daycare. So she suggested maybe I should stay home and take care of the kids, and we'd be further ahead financially if we did that. Well, that was kind of a blow to my pride. So at that point, I sat down and tried to figure out, well, the main reason I'm not making more than $50,000 is I'm just not seeing enough people. So I sat down and figured out how to see enough people. I wrote a seminar, and it was a pretty darn good seminar, and I advertised it, and I got in front of a lot of people. So that year, that 7th year, I got in front of a ton of people. I got in front of 300 people. Got in front of 300 people. So how happy do you think I was, Steve, when I got in front of 300 people?
I'm sure you were very happy.
I was ecstatic. I mean, that was more than I'd gotten in front of the first 7 years, right? So I was ecstatic. Now, the fact is that I did 100, out of those 300 people, I ended up doing 101 presentations. So now how happy do you think I am? I actually showed 101 people what to do with their money.
I'm sure you're very happy.
I was very happy. And in fact, I was so happy, let me go down here, I'll show you. Here's why I was really happy. Because those 101 presentations, I went through and looked at their assets. They had $32 million in investable assets. So that's not including their houses. That's movable money. So now how happy do you think I was?
Tremendously.
Tremendously. And in fact, that year I almost quit the business. That's how happy I was. I didn't quit the business because I was happy. I almost quit the business. I came within actually about a 30-minute conversation of quitting the business. I'd already decided I was going to quit. I was looking in the jobs for want ads when one of my best clients, who was also a friend of mine, came in, and I told him what I was doing, and he convinced me to give it one more shot. I won't go into the whole conversation. But the reason that the year I figured out how to get in front of 300 people, did 101 presentations for $32 million in investable assets, the reason I almost quit that year was because I closed 8 of those 101 people for $800,000. So I closed less than 10% of those people. I only closed, about $1 in $32 of investable assets. So now how happy do you think I was, Steve?
Not a bit.
Not a bit. And of course, guess what I did at that point? Did I blame myself? Do you think I blame myself, Steve?
No, probably not.
No. I went to my wife and I was bitching and moaning saying, you know what, I don't know what's wrong with all these people. They're crazy. They're idiots. All these people I sat down with, because they all loved my proposals. They all complimented me on them. They all said that these were fantastic, and they all actually implemented my proposals. Guess who they did it with?
There are other guys.
There are other guys. So my wife said, well, you know what? A known evil is better than an unknown good. And the light bulb went on. Guess what? It's not their fault. Whose fault was it, Steve?
Well, it has to be yours.
Has to be my fault. It had to be my fault. I mean, were 90 people wrong and I was right? No. If 90 people are wrong and I'm right, I better reevaluate myself, not them, right?
Yep.
But it's a hard thing to do. It's a really hard thing to do. But I did. I started reevaluating myself. And I had to figure out, well, why would these people all love my presentations, but all take my information and go back to their current guy? I couldn't figure that out. Doesn't that seem kind of stupid, Steve, that if you show them all the things that the guy put them in are bad or not working as well as they could, how he's having them pay too much in tax. I mean, if you showed them all the things that you could or they could do to improve their situation, bring in $2,000, $3,000 a year extra in income by reduced fees, less taxes, etc. I mean, does it really, from our side, from the advisor side, make any sense they would take that information back to their guy?
It really doesn't, but, you know, I know where you're headed, and it's easier just to make a change, a small change like that than...
Yeah, you're right, and that's where we're headed. But when we think about it, when you said, yeah, on our side, when we look at it, we're like, how could these people possibly go back to the doughhead that wasn't doing his job in the first place? Isn't that how we looked at it?
Yep.
Do you think that's how I was looking at it?
I'm sure you were.
Yeah, I was saying, well, I don't get it. How can these people go back to that guy? He's ripping them off. He's not a professional. He's not doing a good job for them. How can they go back to the guy who's not doing a good job for them? But they did. And so I had to sit down and figure out why were they doing that? Well, there was lots of reasons they were doing that, and you actually hit on a couple of them, the major ones, Steve. First one is that guess what when I did those 101 presentations, guess what I told them? Hey, do you want a free second look? No obligation. So what'd they say to that, Steve?
Of course, why not?
Of course, why not? Yeah, free information, and it might put me in a much better position, and there's no obligation, no cost. Heck yeah, I'll do it. They all said that. 101 people said that. You know, and I decided when I was looking at these people, every single one of those 101 people, I knew I could put in a better situation. So I decided I should what? If I could put them in a better situation, I should do what?
Should help them.
I should help them, right?
Yeah.
So one of the stories I give people at this point about this particular issue about I can help everybody is that, you know, there's a guy here in Minnesota had 32 drunken driving convictions. Now, we won't get into the whole problem with the fact that somebody could have 32 drunken driving convictions and still be out of jail. But with that guy who had 32 drunken driving convictions, could I help him, Steve? Because I'm thinking, geez, I could, well, first of all, can I help him?
Only if he wants to be helped.
That's right. Because here's the thing. Could I put him, I mean, I'm thinking to myself, geez, if I could help him, I could help him out financially. Because he's spending a ton of money on legal fees and not having good jobs and everything else. I could help him with his family. I could help him personally. I could help him with his health. I could help him so many ways. This guy could really benefit from my advice. But you point out, Steve, that until he's ready for my advice, he's going to do what?
Just keep doing what he's doing.
Keep doing what he's doing. So, and the harder I try to help a guy like that, the more he's going to do what?
Probably back away.
Back away. The more I push, the more he pushes back. So, but I thought, heck, I'm meeting these people. I'm looking at their situation. I can clearly help them, so I can help everybody. That was another reason why it was happening. And of course, the more money they had, the more I thought I could what, Steve?
Well, you thought you could help them.
And I became really clouded by the more money they had, the more I thought I could help them. See, but was their vision my vision? See, my vision was this. My vision was, hey, I'm going to show them how I can save them all this money, reduce their fees, get them a higher rate of return, get them less risk. And then when I do all that, they're going to move all their money to me. That was my vision. What do you think their vision was, Steve?
Well, they're remembering that free obligation, you know, no obligation. So
that's right. So they're thinking, oh, my vision is this. I'm going to get as much information as I can here. The guy seems pretty smart, and then I'm going to do what with it?
Turn around and make some corrections.
Yeah, with who?
The guy they've been working with.
Yeah, exactly. See, because do clients like hassle, Steve?
No,
Nope. Do clients like confrontation?
no,
Is leaving their current advisor a hassle?
yep.
And why is it a hassle? You're exactly right. Why is it a hassle?
And you have to confront the guy and tell him why you're ready to leave him.
Yep. And then in order to leave him, you have to do what?
A lot of paperwork.
A lot of paperwork, a lot of waiting, a lot of hand-wringing. And we think, we do it every day, so guess how much hassle we think it is?
Yeah, we don't think it's at all.
No, but they think it's what?
A lot.
A lot. A lot of hassle. So, and then the last thing is you've already touched on is that now they want to get these things fixed, right? They want to save the money. They want to reduce their fees. They want to get a better investment. They want to lower their risk, but they want to do it the most difficult way possible, or they want to do it the easiest way possible?
The easiest way.
And what is the easiest way?
Just tell them what you want changed, and they'll be glad to do it.
Yeah, you just take it back to the guy. And believe me, the advisors here in town loved me that year. I sent them $31 million in investable assets right back to them, and they made all those changes, and they're the ones that made all the commission off of those things.
Right.
But the clients, they want to do the easiest thing. They don't care how it gets fixed. They just want to get it fixed, unless you have a conversation with them. And I wasn't having that conversation with them. And the thing, well, I tried to have a conversation with them, and here's what I would try to do, Steve. I'd say, well, geez, you know, this is the guy that did you in the first place. You really want to go back to him? And what'd they say?
Well, they may hesitate and say no, but deep down they know it's easier to stay where they are.
Yeah, but he was the guy that screwed you. He was the guy that did this, that, and the other thing. And what'd they say to that?
Well, they probably defended him because
Yes.
they're the one that chose him.
Exactly. They weren't really defending him. They were defending themselves. You hit it right on the head, Steve. So, so the more I tried to attack their guy, the more they did what?
Push back.
Push back. So the more I tried to make them move, the less likely they were to move. That's why I had 101 presentations and closed one in $32. And I had to figure out how to fix that, These are all reasons why people, because, and here's the funny thing, Steve. When I talk to advisors, and I'll say, what's your closing ratio? Guess what they always tell me their closing ratio is?
Oh, it's 8 or 9 out of 10.
8 or 9 out of 10. They all tell me that. And then when I actually look at all of the cases they've done, guess what I find? Is it 8 out of 9 out of 10?
No.
No. It's actually like 2 or 3 out of 10. And I say, well, how can you say you have 8 or 9 out of 10 when you miss 7 of these or 8 of these people? And guess what they tell me? They'll say, well, those other people weren't gettable. And they come up with all sorts of reasons why those other people weren't gettable. Well, you know, they had surrender charges. Well, they just moved their money. Well, their brother-in-law was their advisor. Well, blah, blah, blah. In their own mind, in the advisor's mind, they were making excuses by saying, oh, those other 7 or 8 people weren't gettable, so I got all the people that were gettable, so I have a 100% closing ratio or an 80% closing ratio. So in professional baseball, as I understand how it goes, Steve, is that for batting averages, I could tell people that I have a 900 batting average, even in the pros, because when I look at all the pitches that were thrown to me with my skill level, I mean, should I really be able to hit any of those balls that those professionals are throwing at me?
Probably really couldn't, but...
No, I couldn't, could I? So really, if I get one hit, then really I'm batting 1,000 because I got all the balls that were gettable. I hit all the balls that were gettable. All the other ones were what?
Too fast.
Too fast, too curvy, too knuckly.
Yep.
So obviously I'm batting 1,000 because I got all the ones that I could possibly get. But am I being honest with myself?
No.
No. So when you start or when I started to hold myself accountable and be honest with myself, guess what happened to my production?
Probably started going up.
A lot. Started going up a lot. Because here's the thing, I changed. And the way I changed it, I said, you know, it's got to be, 90 people can't be wrong. Those 90 people took my information back to that current advisor. They can't be, I mean, eventually I have to admit that somebody else is wrong besides those 90 people, and it had to be me. So what I did is I started to record all of my meetings. So that next year, I recorded and listened to over 200 of my own client meetings. How fun do you think that was, Steve?
Not fun at all.
And you're right. Why wasn't it?
Well, because basically you were reviewing defeat.
Defeat. And how embarrassing do you think that was?
Well, it was, as you would say, hand-wrenching.
because I thought I was a great salesman, and I was a great salesman. I convinced all 100 people they should make changes. So I won all of those battles and lost what? The war.
You lost the war.
Yeah. See, I was a fantastic salesman. I convinced them all to make the changes I recommended. But I did it in such a way that they did it with their current guy. So I won the battle, but didn't win any money.
Right.
So I started listening to all my recordings. I was like, Jesus, I wouldn't work with me. Because I was an excellent debater. I was an excellent salesperson, but I certainly was not a consultant. They were clear on that I was smarter than them. They were clear that I knew what they should do. They were clear that I was right. And there was no argument there, but what were they also clear on? They had no reason to work with me versus their other guy. And by recording all those meetings and listening to them over and over and over, I became clear I wasn't quite the salesperson I thought I was. And I started to make changes. And when I made all those changes, that's how I created the selling system that I have. It's helped me make $1 million a year, and helped over a dozen other guys make $1 million a year, and a lot of other guys make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. It was designed not by me setting out to create the system. It was designed by me listening to all these recordings and figuring out what I should not do. I actually eliminated all the things that I shouldn't do and figured out all the things that I should do by listening to those recordings. And when I was finished, here's what happened. I created a 3-meeting process. In that first meeting, I ended up learning to kick 50% of the people out. So if I got in front of 25 people in a month, I would kick 50% of them out, which leaves how many people?
50%.
Okay. So at the second meeting, though, those 12 people, which are about half of the 25, right? Those 12 people, 100% of them would go from my second meeting to my solution meeting. Now, do you recall, Steve, what I do at my second meeting?
You go through the results that you have, the information that you gathered on the first meeting.
Yeah, what I do is I have 21 issues I go through with them, that all 21 issues their current advisor did not go over. And I have them realize that their guy didn't cover those things with them. And there's 3 reasons that their advisor would not have covered those things with them. One is they didn't know. How good is that?
Not cool.
No. How about he didn't care? How good is that?
Also not cool.
How about he did it on purpose? What do you think about that?
That's outlandish, really.
Outlandish. And that's what we end up getting to, is that they start to learn. Now, can we tell them that? If I tell them that, what are they going to do, Steve?
They'll push back.
They'll push back. So I cannot tell them. So the whole second meeting is designed to have them realize that, in their own words, this guy did not do 21 things. And he either did them because he didn't know, didn't care, or he did them on purpose. And if you do, once you get to be very good at that second meeting, most of the time they're going to figure out he did it on purpose. So what do you think their mindset is? If I don't say a bad single iota phrase, word, or syllable about their guy being bad, I don't say a bad bleep about their current guy, if they realize that 21 things he forgot to do, what are they starting to think?
They can't trust him.
Yeah, they start to think he made a lot of mistakes and I can't trust him. But we have to take that a step further, and we have to have them come to the conclusion on why he did it. So, and here's what they're also going to find. Those 21 different issues all put them in a worse position, and we're also going to show them that while it put them in a worse position, what did it do for their advisor?
Put him in control, in a better position.
Yeah. So if I do a good job of that meeting, how many of those people will want to go to a next meeting?
Well, they'll want to go to the next meeting with you, probably 80 to 100%.
Yeah, 100. And if I do a good job, it'll be 100, right? Because what percentage of people are going to, once they find out that 21 things, the guy didn't cover 21 things, all of which put him in a better position and them in a worse position, and that happened because he didn't know, didn't care, or did it on purpose. What percentage of people are going to want to go back to their guy at that point, except with a gun or a bomb?
None.
None, exactly. So if you do a good job at the second meeting, 100% of them want to move to the third meeting. In the third meeting, we give them a solution, and we get 9, or I get 9 out of 10, and the guys that are very good at the system get 9 out of 10 at that point. So essentially, you get about 50% of every person you see that first meeting, about 50% of them will become clients. Now, at that third meeting, we get 90%, because are there people in the world, Steve, who will borrow your lawnmower, bring it back broken, and they don't think there's a problem with it?
Sure.
Do you want those kind of people as clients?
No,
No. But is that a large portion of people or a very small percentage of people?
very small.
Yeah. And that's the 10% we don't get at the third meeting. They were willing to milk us, lie to us, squeeze us, and weasel out at the end, take our information, and go back to their current guy. But do we really worry about that 10%?
Nope.
Nope, we don't care about it. So this is the numbers that by the end of that year, was seeing. Now, it took me about 12 months to get up to that point, and that's why that first year I went from making $50,000 a year to $356,000. So my income went up from $50 to $356 in 1 year, after being flat for 7 years. And it wasn't because of the marketing, because remember, I had 300 people. I saw 300 people the year. That last year I made 50,000. That next year that I made 356, I saw about the same exact number of people. I saw about 300 people. But I ended up closing about 70 of those people. And the next year I made 667. The next year I made 967. So it was not because of the marketing that I made all that money. It was because of the selling system. And today I want to talk about how my attitude changed about these clients. And you're kind of getting a taste of that right now. Do you think, just based on what I've said so far, Steve, that every single client that came into my office, that I wanted to work with them?
No.
No. And if they had a lot of money, did that enter into my thought process once I became good at this?
Nope.
Nope. So let's talk about what my thought process is when they come into that first meeting. Oh, well, and of that, the first 2 years that I did the system, I brought on 232 clients with an average ticket size of $127,000. So after 7 years of making $50,000 a year, boom, I instantaneously went up. And why did that happen? Did I go up arithmetically or exponentially there, Steve?
Actually, you multiplied, so it's exponentially.
Exponentially. So do you think I became exponentially smarter?
No, you were just doing a better job.
Yes, I was doing a better job. I didn't become exponentially smarter. I didn't become exponentially harder working. I didn't become exponentially anything. I was just doing a better job. I was just doing a better job. That's all I was doing. So anybody can do this. So today we're going to talk about the numbers of the first meeting, how I deal with people and how I look at people. So 50% of the people that come into my office, and this has been, we have actually documented this with over 50,000 meetings. And what I mean by that is we tracked all of our advisors, the guys that we coach, we tracked all of their meetings for several years. And so we actually have documentation of our 50,000 meetings. And this was the same. When the guys learned how to do the system, they were kicking on average about 50% of the people out of that first meeting. And I don't care if they were in Florida, California, New York, Kansas, Seattle, this number held steady at about 50% of the people that come to the first meeting would be kicked out. Now, when I first start working with guys, advisors, Steve, what do you think their reaction to that is?
They're probably resistive.
Yeah, and why would they resist that?
Hate to see the money go out the door.
Yeah, they're saying, geez, Mike, you're kicking half the money possible income you could get right out the door. Why do you think that? What do you think I've learned, Steve, about kicking that money out the door? Is it money that was possible?
No.
No. I learned that was money that I wasn't going to get anyways, so I might as well do what?
Cut your losses and get rid of them.
Yes, cut my losses. Why do I want to cut my losses? Because, I'll have a guy say, well, geez, what if one of those people you kicked out made you some money? So why do you think I was cutting when you say I was cutting my losses, that's exactly what I was doing. What kind of losses am I cutting?
They would eat up your time.
They would eat up my time. That's one thing. What else would they eat up?
Your resources. Yes,
and I'm going to talk about one of those resources here in a second. So 50% of the people that came through my process, 50% of the people that come and go through the process. So 50% of the people do go through the process, but the other 50% do not. I kick them out nicely. And so you brought up the reason I do that is time. I want to save myself time. I want to save myself resources, and there's a number of resources there, right? There's my assistance resources, my software resources, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll tell you the biggest resource that I want to preserve is this. I look at, I don't want to get too new age on you here, Steve, but I look at it as when I wake up in the morning, I have only been given so much positive energy. So if I wake up, and let me give you some proof of this. I wake up and I go out to the kitchen and find out that so I get up on Monday, I'm ready to go to work, I'm all fired up, I'm all positive, I'm going to have a great week, I'm all psyched up, Steve. I've got the little note on the mirror telling me I should be positive. And I walk out to the kitchen and I find out the refrigerator is broken and all the food in the refrigerator is spoiled. What's happened to my positive energy?
Somebody just pulled the plug.
Yeah, somebody pulled the plug. And then I go out to the car, and I'm driving out of the driveway, and I notice my car's handling funny. I go out and I look, I have a flat tire. Where's my positive energy now?
You're thinking about going back to bed.
Right, because even if my wife gives me drives me to work, how am I going to be at all my meetings that day?
You're going to be a little off.
They're going to be a loss. So I look at it that I only have so much positive energy during the day, and where do I want to invest that positive energy?
The people you can make the best difference with.
Exactly, the people I can make the best difference with. And because if I spend time with the people that I can't do business with, not only will I not do business with them, but what are they experts at?
They're sucking your positive
Yes, they're experts at sucking out my positive energy. Because they know exactly how to suck as much stuff out of you as possible, and then when the next person comes in who's a good candidate, what do I have left for that guy?
You're firing on 4 cylinders.
Exactly. And see, that's what happened when I had let me go back here. No, those 101 people that I did presentations for that year, probably 50 of them were gettable. But I didn't identify those 50 because the other 50% that weren't gettable, they sucked up all my positive energy, so that when I finally got to these 50, I started looking at everybody's out just to suck my information. Everybody's out to screw me. So I started to think that all prospects were what?
Just trying to steal the information you're going to give them.
Exactly. And so, can I really hide that?
No.
From this 50 that would have been good? I couldn't hide it, could I?
No.
So I learned that I only have so much positive energy. And I became a realist. See, I figured if I tried to help everybody, just seeing how much energy, that guy who had 32 drunk driving tickets, if I spent all my time trying to help him, how much energy would I have left for my family? The people who really deserve it.
None. It'd drain you.
They would just drain me, right?
Right.
So I became a realist. And I didn't say, I wasn't an optimist. I wasn't a pessimist. I didn't look at clients and say, oh, geez, he's got $5 million. I bet you I could get him. I started, start spending the money in my head and thinking of all the ways I could help in my head. I didn't do that. And I didn't look at other people as pessimistic. I didn't look at people positively. I didn't look at them negatively. I just looked at them pragmatically, saying, and I asked them certain questions that I could make a decision saying, oh, this guy will go through the process or this guy won't go through the process. And here's why I did that. So you see that, Steve? I didn't say this is a glass half full. I didn't say this is a glass half empty. I said, I think this is. Because the thing is, it wasn't a glass half empty, it's a glass half full. It's what? It is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's full of piss.
So I started looking at the clients as, they are what they are. I'm not going to try to make a person with a lot of money a great prospect. They're either a good prospect or they're not a good prospect. Does the money have anything to do with that, Steve?
No.
Nothing whatsoever. So I started to look at people in a realistic way. And here's the thing. So here's what happened. So back when I had those 101 prospects come through, when they came through, I did a proposal for them if they wanted me to do a proposal. I said, hey, would you like me to do a second opinion free of charge, no obligation? And as we already agreed, they all wanted to do that, right? So I would do 10. If I had 10 people, they would all say, yes, I want you to do that proposal for me. But in the end, guess how many would end up doing business with me? So I do 10 proposals, and I'd only have, one. Yeah, on average for me it was one. So I did 10 times the work I needed to get that one guy. Not very smart, was it? It was hard, but was it smart? Not very.
Nope.
So here's what I did now. Now, how many people did I kick out of my first meeting?
50%.
50%, which means out of 10 proposals, let's say the same exact 10 people that I did that came in with that 101, let's say the same 10 people came through, how many proposals am I going to do now?
5.
5. And how many of those am I going to get? I'm going to get
1, maybe 2.
So I'm going to get 4. 4 out of that 5, because I close 80 to 90% of them after I kick these out, right? So after I get rid of these, I'm going to close most of these people. Now here's the question I have. why, if these were the exact same 10 people, why, when I first did it, and I did all 10 proposals, did I only get one person? And now, when I kick 50% out, and it's the same people, so this one, remember, would have worked with me regardless. But why did I get these extra 3 people, or really 3 times as many people?
Because when you
Here's
got
why.
to them,
Yeah, go ahead.
When you got to them, you weren't drained
Mm-hmm.
from negative energy.
Exactly. Number one is when I got to them, I wasn't drained, which means I had enough energy then to have a heart-to-heart with them in a palatable way, a way that they found friendly, a way that they found helpful, but in a way that they would give me their commitment at that first meeting. So guess how many of these I told up front, hey, I'll do this free of charge. You want a second opinion for free? No obligation? Guess how many of those people I told that to?
You told to all of them.
No. I quit telling it to them.
Oh.
See, when I had the 10, guess what I told the 10?
Yeah, you told all the 10 that.
Yep, but now, when I listened to all those tapes, I learned I shouldn't be telling people a no-obligation meeting or it's free. I've got to let them know that there's what? A commitment here.
Yeah, there's some strings attached.
There's some strings attached. My time, your time is valuable, Mr. and Mr. Prospect, but guess what? My time is valuable too. And if I don't know if you've had a chance. Have you had a chance, Steve, to go through the first meeting scripts?
Briefly.
So when you go through those scripts, you're going to find out that the last 10 minutes is about getting them to commit. Number one, loyalty versus unconditional love. They're going to tell me in their own words that they don't unconditionally love their guy. In the first 60 minutes I meet with them, 40 minutes in, they're going to, or 50 minutes in, they're going to tell me I don't unconditionally love my guy, and they're going to start telling me all the reasons why they would leave their guy. Now, why do you think I want them to start to say in their own words all the reasons they would leave their guy?
Well, you've already started to create doubt in their mind that their guy has their best interests at hand.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I'm going to have them agree that, hey, staying with the guy, if he's not doing his job, staying with him would be unloyal to themselves, not to me. See, if they say it'd be, I'm sorry, not unloyal, unfair to themselves. So if we have a discussion with them that they say it'd be unfair to themselves to stay with their guy if he's not doing his job. See, what most of us are very good at as salespeople is to say, it'd be unfair to me. I mean, if I do all this work for you, Steve, and I spend hours doing this, and I show you how to do all these things, and you take it back to your guy, guess what you just done to me? Do they really care what they just done to you?
No.
Because when they walk out the door, how much further do they even think of you?
Probably not much at all.
Not much at all. So I have them discover for themselves that it would be unfair to themselves. And today's not about going through the script, but you can go through the script for yourself and find out. So we've had them say that, tell me in a whole bunch of words why they're not unconditionally in love with their guy, that if he's not doing his job, they're going to move. And then they're going to tell me in their own words that they have to move if he's not doing his job because it would be unfair to themselves. Not unfair to him, not unfair to me, unfair to themselves. And then I do a little secret close. And the reason I'm doing this and having them say them out loud is a couple of different reasons. Number one is when you go to church, Steve, or synagogue, does the preacher or the rabbi say, let's all sing this song to ourselves?
No.
What's he say?
Let's all sing it.
Let's belt it out. Why does he want you to belt it out?
I don't know.
Well, let's think about this. When we say our Pledge of Allegiance, when the kids say the Pledge of Allegiance, does the teacher say, now, we'd like you to say Pledge of Allegiance to yourself, or what do they want teacher wants you to do?
Well, they want you to say it out loud.
Well, I'll give you an example of this to make it very clear why you want to do this. When you tell your teenage kid to pick up the room and they say, yeah, what's it likely that's going to happen?
Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe, maybe not. The only way you're going to know that's going to happen is if you say what? Bobby, what did I just tell you? He says, well, you said I have to clean up. You say I have to clean up my room before I can go out with the guys later this afternoon.
Yeah.
Why did I have them? Yeah, go ahead.
You're getting them to reaffirm their order, if you will.
Yes, because once they say it out loud, guess what?
They bought it.
They own it. Because if I said, Bobby, you need to clean up your room before you go out with the guys, and he says, yeah, and then I come home from work, and he's out with the guys, and his room's not clean, and I call him, and I say, listen, I told you, when he gets back, I told you got to clean the room before you leave, and with your friends, he'd say, "Oh, really? That's not what. Oh, I thought you said that I need to clean it sometime this weekend." And what can I say?
I guess I didn't make it clear to you.
Yes. So having them say it out loud, they own it. Can they come back and say, "I never said that"?
Oh.
Pretty tough, right?
Yep.
Now, there's a second reason. So one is this, they own it. They've said it. They own it. It's hard for them to say, "I never said that." So when they say, I don't unconditionally love my guy," they've said it out loud. When they say it'd be unfair to go back to their guy to themselves, they've said it out loud. So they own it. Now, there's another reason we do that. I don't know if you're aware of this, but of this fact, but I do a lot of reading on psychology and how it works, etc. And there's a study that's really fascinating to me. They had this guy who's a Vietnam prisoner, and he was a prisoner for 6 years. And you can imagine it was a horrible experience. They kept him in a little cage, they fed him poorly, whatever. And the only way he kept sane is he was a golfer. And in his head, he would golf the golf course that was on his base back in the States. He'd golf that in his head every single day, 2 or 3 times. He'd go from hole 1 all the way through hole 18. He'd play it over and over and over in his head. That's how he stayed sane. When he came back and got out of the hospital after he'd recovered, he went to play golf. So he hadn't picked up a stick in 6 years. And guess how he golfed?
Very well.
He golfed within 2 of his best round ever. And they've shown this. Actually, they've shown that if you practice shooting free throws in your head, it's about 97% effective as practicing them on the court. See, once you visualize something, your brain doesn't know whether it's real or not real. Your brain looks at visualization as actually being real. So when they've told me all the reasons why they don't unconditionally love their guy, what's happening in their head, Steve?
They're realigning their thoughts.
Yes, they are visualizing doing what?
Visualizing leaving their guy.
Yes. And have I lifted this finger yet?
No.
No, it's in the first 60 minutes, right? So have I done a stitch of work? Nope. Have I looked at their statements? Barely. I haven't done anything for them, but they're already visualizing leaving their guy. So before I used this process, and I said, hey, it's free, no obligation whatsoever, what were they visualizing? Remember, we talked about this. What were they visualizing?
Taking the information and going back and
Is that a good visualization for me?
No.
No. But them visualizing them leaving their current guy, is that a good visualization for me? Yeah. They're visualizing leaving their guy. That's great for me.
Yep.
And then when they visualize the fact that, hey, it would be crazy for me to go back to him if he wasn't doing his job because it would be unfair to me. When they're visualizing how unfair it would be, and I walk them through a whole storyline in that script where they realize, wow, that would be really bad for me. It'd be unfair to me to take my information back to the guy. When they're visualizing that in their head, is that a good thing for me or a bad thing for me?
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. So by having them say it out loud and having them visualize these things in their head, have I said a bad word about their guy yet?
No.
Nope. Have I pushed and shoved yet? Because if I told him what to do, because if you tell your teenage son what to do, what's he going to do? Push back.
Yeah, he just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yep, or worse, he'll push you back. He'll do the opposite of what you want.
Right.
So have I told them what they should do yet?
Oh.
No, they're just discovering for themselves that, hey, I don't unconditionally love my guy. Hey, there's reasons I'd leave him. I could see myself leaving him if he wasn't doing these things. Hey, it'd be unfair to myself to stay with him. These are all things they visualize themselves. See, I got their commitment. Then I do what's called a little secret close. And at the little secret close, I get them to tell me that, and just briefly, because just to explain again, these scripts are all on the site. The little secret close, I basically say, hey, you see those pictures? You know, I go through the things that they've done well, and I say, now there's some things we can do better, and I go through a list of 3 or 4 things they could do better, and I say, so I appreciate you sharing all those things, and I got a little secret for you, Steve. And then I shut up. And when I say I got a little secret for you and shut up, guess what they always say?
What is it?
Yeah, what is it? Well, here's the thing, and I have pictures of my family. I say, see my family there? It's my wife, my 2 boys. I love spending as much time possible with them. You know, my son, he's getting close to going to college, so it's even more important to spend time with him, and I love playing sports with him and skateboarding with him and snowboarding with him, and I love doing those things and being with my wife. So can I be honest with you, Steve? I know what I can do for you, and I know what I can't do for you. And based on the fact of what we just talked about here, that you don't unconditionally love your guy and be unfair to stay with him if he's doing his job, and based on I know what I can do and can't do, the fact is that I don't need any more practice, Steve.
Yeah.
I do hundreds of these every single year. I don't need any more practice. So if I didn't know I could do these things for you, I wouldn't take it to a second meeting. So based on what you've told me, based on what I know I can do, my little secret is you're going to become a client of mine, and I look forward to that. And then I shut up. Now, here's where the 50% kicker comes. Close to 50% of them at that point are going to say, whoa, 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 I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. I don't think, I'm not going to, you're going to have to show me what you have because I'm not going to give you any commitment up front. And guess what that part of that 50% is, Steve?
That's the ones that you don't want to work with.
That's the ones I kick out. Because they've just told me it'd be unfair to take to themselves if the guy's not doing his job to go back to him. They just told me they don't unconditionally love the guy, and yet after spending 10 minutes telling me that, they're just now telling me what? I was what? They were lying.
Yeah.
Do I want to work with a liar?
No.
So they're telling me at that point that I'm not ready to move my money yet. So how much time do I want to work with or to spend on somebody who does not have time to move their money yet?
0.
0. I kick them out. Now the other 50%, they don't say, yeah, Mike, I'm going to move all my money to you. Do you think they say that?
No.
No, but they say something like this. They'll say, well, if you can do the things you say you can do, Mike, then yes. And I say, yeah, only if, and only you know whether I've done that in the end or not. But they said, what have they said when they say, well, only if you can do those things? What have they just said?
They said they're ready to move forward with you, but they want a little more information.
Right. They're saying, if you can do those things. Because if you can't do those things, what are they going to do, Steve?
They're going to walk out the door.
Yeah, and I've given them full permission. But now, these are people who said, you know what, I'm not married to my guy, and if you can do better, I'll move to you. And the best thing is they've said it out loud, and they've visualized it. Before, when I said, hey, do you want a free second opinion, did they do either of those things?
No.
So now do we understand why, if I go back to my hands here, why I get these extra 3 people that I didn't used to get before?
Sure.
Because they've said out loud and visualized leaving their guy. Before, let's see if I can erase. Before, when I did all 10, and I didn't have that agreement, guess what they all did with my information? Took it back to their guy.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how I started working half as hard and getting 3 times as much income. So, that 50%? Who are we kicking out? Well, we've already identified. If they start weaseling after they've told me these things out loud in their own voice, I'm going to kick them out, right?
Yep.
So people that will not give me the commitment at the first meeting, I kick them out. People that argue are kicked out as soon as they argue. This does not happen often, but occasionally I'll have somebody come in, and maybe one spouse didn't want to come and they're pissed off, so they're argumentative from the get-go. So guess what I do with those people? How much psychic energy, Steve, do you think they'll suck out of me?
A lot.
A lot. So guess what I do with those people?
Out the door.
And what if it's only 5 minutes into the meeting?
Doesn't make any difference.
Exactly. Does not make any difference. And here's how I deal with those people. I just simply say, Mary, did I do something to make you angry or dislike me? And then I do what?
Shut up.
Shut up. And every time I've done that, and again, I probably have to do it 5 times a year, but when I've done that, 9 times out of 10, guess what they'll do?
Oh, no, you didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. And what does that do? It changes the whole tone of the conversation to one of what?
More of acceptance of what you're going to say.
Civility. That's all I need, right?
Yeah.
Be civil. Because if they're civil, are they sucking out any energy out of me?
No.
But if they continue to be argumentative, then guess what I do?
Cut them off.
I stand up and say, you know what, I don't know what I've done to offend you, but whatever it is, because they'll say, usually, again, normally they don't do this, but that small percentage will, when you call them on it like that, she'll come up and say, well, all you guys do is rip people off, and I don't trust. And you stand up and you say, you know what, you're absolutely right. This is, you have no reason to trust me. You don't know me from Adam, and because of that, you have every reason to have that kind of attitude. and I respect that. You stand up and you walk to the door and you say, so because I respect you, I wish you the best luck, and you kick them right out the door, right?
Yeah.
Right then. So that's again, that's a very small percentage, but it does happen, does it not?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does. So even if they have a ton of money, if they don't give me the commitment or they are argumentative, they're out the door. So who else do we kick out? Well, I kick out single do-it-yourselfers. I do not kick out couples, but I kick out single do-it-yourselfers. Why do you think I kick out a single do-it-yourselfer?
Once again, they're going to just take your information.
Yeah, they're only there to suck the information out of me, right? And they're always nice, pleasant, interested, but they've been doing it themselves forever. So do you think that we're finally the guy that's going to convince them to work with us?
No.
And I'll have a guy say, well, you know what? What, Steve? One time I did get a single do-it-yourselfer. What would I tell that guy?
You were lucky.
Yeah, you were lucky. So I'm not, so 1 time out of 10 you'll get a do-it-yourselfer, single do-it-yourselfer.
Yep.
But I'm not shooting for do I really want to do 10 proposals to get 1 guy?
Nope.
No, I'll walk away from that guy. I want to get the when I do a proposal, I want a 90% chance of getting that guy, not a 10% chance of getting that guy. So I do not work with single do-it-yourselfers. I do work with couple do-it-yourselfers. And again, we have a script on the website. And the way that I do with a couple do-it-yourselfers is I put the do-it-yourselfer on the spot, and say, you're really here for your spouse, aren't you? And they have to admit that, yes, they are. And then I get them to commit to a dollar figure of what they're willing to move if things go well. For me, it was $100,000. If they're willing to move $100,000 at the end, and they say it out loud with their spouse in the room. So I'll work with a couple do-it-yourselfer, but I will not work with a single do-it-yourselfer. Now, what will I do with who else do I kick out? People that don't meet our minimums. As badly as we want to help everybody. If I help everybody, then I have to cut my service down to the people I already have. So we all have minimums. I started out with a $50,000 minimum, and I ended up with a $125,000 minimum. But if they didn't meet that minimum, I helped them, and we'll get into that in a second, but I did not bring them on as clients. And possibly people that have all their money in one investment or CDs. See, if they have all their money in IBM stock, what's the likelihood, and they've had it there all their life, and they've worked for IBM all their life, what's the likelihood I'm going to get them to move that money out of IBM stock?
Very unlikely.
Very unlikely. If they've had CDs their whole life, what's the likelihood I'm going to get them to move out of CDs?
Probably not good.
Not good. Do you think I'm the first person to try to get them to do that?
No.
No, but I'm so much better that I could get them to do it. No, if they've had their money in one investment or CDs for their whole life, I know they're not going to want to move it. Now, but I don't know that for sure. I'll ask them, so how long have you had this money here? If they've only had it there for a short period of time, do I have a chance?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. And if I say, or if they say, I'm kind of skittish, I think I shouldn't have all my eggs in one basket, I'm looking to diversify, and I ask them, well, that's a great idea. How much do you think you diversify? If it's enough money that they're talking about diversifying, would I work with them then?
Sure.
Yeah. So when I say possibly, that means I'm skeptical that they're going to move their money. So I'm going to make them prove to me that they will move their money before I move them on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, good. So how do I kick them out? Well, I've already discussed how I kick them out if they're argumentative. Everyone else, though, I take them to the end of the meeting. If they don't have enough money, if they're a single do-it-yourselfer, everybody, I take them to the end of the meeting, and I'm polite to them. But I'm not emotionally invested in them. I'm going to be polite to them. So with their argumentative, guess what I'm going to give them?
The door.
The door, exactly. I give the door and a kick on the way out, right?
Yeah, right.
If they're people that won't commit, what will I give them?
Same,
nothing. Now, the single do-it-yourselfers, the people who don't meet minimums or have all their investors in one place, have they chosen not to work with me, or have I chosen not to work with them?
You've chosen not to work with them.
So is that really their problem or my problem? It's my problem.
In a way, it's their problem, but you're deciding.
Yes. So am I going to help them as much as I can? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if the single do-it-yourselfers, they're not going to compete with me, are they?
No.
No, they're going to take any information I give them and they're going to go home and use it themselves. But they're not going to compete against me. People that don't meet minimums, heck, they're not out to hurt me or anything. So I'm going to help them, and people that have all their investments. So with those people, I'm going to help them as much as possible. I'm going to give them advice on what to do with their powers of attorney. I'm going to give them the information on how to electronically file. I'm going to give them as much information as I can at that meeting. But am I going to do any more, have any more meetings with them?
No.
No. So, but do I feel good about myself when I help these people?
Yes.
And do I feel bad about myself if I don't help people who don't give me the commitment or are argumentative?
No,
So what happens to my psychic energy, my positive psychic energy?
you're feeling real good.
Mm-hmm. And doing half as much work, right?
Yep.
So what do we do with the people then once they leave our office? Well, I add them to my epidemic marketing. So should I even add the argumentative ones to the epidemic marketing? Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, Steve. Do you know what I mean by epidemic marketing?
Yes, yes. No, I would say your answer that you want is yes, but I think it's a waste of time.
Here's why I say you're right. The answer that I want is yes, and here's why. Is it normally both spouses are argumentative or one?
Probably just the one, yeah.
And that argumentative one, do they generally have high blood pressure?
Probably.
So I'm just waiting for them to what?
Waiting for them to die.
I'm sorry, but that's what I'm waiting for. And guess who that other one's going to run to?
Yeah, if she remembers you, and if you put her on the epidemic, you will.
They'll remember me if I put them in the epidemic. Yep. So leave them on there. So once a month, I'm going to send everybody, even the ones I kicked out. I'm going to send them my newsletter, the one that's that we write that's on that you send in the mail, the personal organization kit gift, that little gift that we send them that you can attach to the newsletter, the referral email, and then we covered a couple weeks ago Clients IQ, where you can also send them a completely different email newsletter. I'm going to send those things to them every single month, because do people with no money suddenly get money sometimes?
Oh, yes.
Yes, they inherit it, right, or find it, or win it, or whatever.
Yeah.
Do people that are argumentative, does the spouse die?
Yeah.
Sometimes. I mean, so do people who right now are totally satisfied with their guy finally get fed up with their guy?
Yeah.
So I send it to everybody until they ask me to take it off, or until if somebody's truly argumentative, and I would just you have my full permission, Steve, to take that person off your drip marketing. But think about it before you do it. But if they just drive you crazy, if you know that if you sent them a newsletter, they'd call you up and be argumentative over that, then yeah, you would just don't put them on. But I want as many people on my drip as possible because I want to make my own luck. Okay? So why do I bother? Here's why epidemic marketing works. How many times does the current broker or investment company contact them, do you think, on a yearly basis?
Annual statement, maybe.
Maybe. And if they do bother to call them up, what are they calling them for?
Make a change.
And a change that would make the advisor what?
Money.
Money. So I find that the most times the advisor is going to call them, if he calls, he's about making changes that will make them money. Guess what they found? And this is from 3 different very intense studies. Guess what they found the number one reason people is that they leave their current advisor?
Lack of content.
Lack of contact. Yep, lack of contact.
Yep.
And even with, you'd think return would be, I think lack of return, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it's not.
Crazy. Some of them do.
Yep. It's lack of contact, not lack of return. And lack of return was actually listed half the time the reason people left. I mean, not half the time. Half as many times as lack of contact. So people leave their advisor for lack of contact twice as often as they leave for lack of return. And guess what we have control over, Steve?
Well, when you're seeding their mind on a monthly basis, you're in front of them every month.
Yeah. And do we have control over return?
Over return?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Well, if you go with the guaranteed thing, but most often do we have control over people's returns?
Oh, no.
No, we don't, do we? But do we have control over contacting them?
Sure, yeah.
So we should invest all of our time in something we control or something we don't control?
We want to invest our time in things that we can control.
Control, right. So we know people leave their current advisors for lack of contact. We can control contact, so we contact these people. Eventually, all those people that were argumentative or didn't have enough money or would not give us a commitment at the first meeting, guess what starts to happen over time? They start to call.
Eventually, after you continue to see them, if things change, then they'll come back to you.
Yep, and they do. And the longer you do this, the more often. We've got guys now that have been doing this for 5 years, and they'll get a new client a month out of doing this. And guess how much it costs them to get a new client? Diddly do.
Yeah.
So it is worth doing. Now, what else do we want to do with these people that we kick out? Well, for the lucky ones, and what I'm talking about is an advisor that's a lucky one, if you can use testimonials. So you can't do this if you're a registered investment advisor, but if you're a registered rep or an insurance agent, you can get testimonials. And what you want to do is you want to ask the people, all those people, the single do-it-yourselfer, the people who didn't meet your minimums, not the commitment people, but the people that have all their investments in one place, those nice people that you made a conscious decision not to move forward with them, what you're going to do. Remember I told you to give them how much stuff, Steve?
Give them as much as you can to help them, one time while
Yep,
they're there.
so you help them up as much as possible at that one time. And then you ask them, so can I ask you a question, Steve? Was this an okay meeting? And they, of course, say, yeah, this was great. I said, did I try to shove anything down your throat? No, you were very, see, and the thing is, I mean, did you learn some things or take some things that are helpful? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I say, so, here's the thing. A lot of people won't come to see me because they're afraid when they come to see me that I'm going to try to, twist their arm and throw them down on the floor and make them sign paperwork and move all their money. I mean, did I do that to you? No, you didn't do that at all, Mike. So can I ask you a favor? If I sent you home with a self-addressed stamped envelope, would you write a little note saying that this was a pleasant experience and you think that I'm an okay guy and I didn't try to twist your arm or anything? Would you do that? I guess what they all say, yes. And if you send them home with the self-addressed stamped envelope, there's something magical about that envelope. You get 80 to 90% of them back because they hate to go home and have an envelope with a stamp on it and not use it. Now, with those testimonials, I put them in a big 3-ring binder, and guess what's on my coffee table in the waiting room?
Those testimonials.
Yeah, do you think there's any magazines?
No, just the testimonials.
Exactly, just the testimonials. And my best testimonials didn't come from my current clients. They came from those single do-it-yourselfers or those people that didn't meet my minimums who just loved me at that point in time, and they wrote glowing testimonials about me. Now, they weren't talking about how the rate of returns or can you do those kind of testimonials that I've got them a 15% rate of return. They can't do those. No, they talk about that you're a good guy, you treated them decently, you're honest, you're sincere, you're helpful. Those are the kind of testimonials you're going to have. And how good do you think those testimonials are?
How many? Or
no, how good? How good do you think it is to somebody to read a testimonial like that right before they come?
They're invaluable.
Yes, they're invaluable. So that's how we deal with the first meeting. We kick 50% of them out. We take 50% through the process. That 50% that's going through the process, they visualized moving their money to us. They've said that out loud. All we need to do now is make sure at the second meeting that we perform the advisorectomy in a way that we don't tell them, but they tell us all the things their guy forgot to tell them, and the fact that it put the advisor in a better position and them in a worse position. If we do that, we get 80 to 90% of them to move all of their money. Because how much money can they leave there?
None. They don't trust them.
They don't trust them, so they move all their money to us. So does that make sense, Steve? Why we kick 50% out?
Oh yeah.
And does it make sense why by changing from, hey, do you want a free second opinion, to actually getting their commitment at that first meeting, does it make sense what's happened in their brain and what allows me to get 3 times as many people as I used to?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, Steve, I appreciate very much you being my sounding board here. You did a great job. Thank you very much. Mitzi, do we have any questions that we want addressed?
Yes, actually, I do have a great question from Glenn, and I'm also going to open up Glenn's line in case you have any follow-up on this. But Glenn had asked, is it possible to use this first meeting process in a seminar-style setting?
That's a good question. I don't think that it would be wise to do that. And the reason being is this is communication that you need to get them to verbally say or it's not really worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I need them to actually look me in the eye and say these things, and I need to see that they're visualizing it. And unfortunately, when I look out in a crowd in a seminar, do I really know what they're thinking?
No, probably not.
Yeah, and the only way for me to know what they're thinking is for them to actually do what?
Respond.
Yeah, tell me what they're thinking. And once they tell me what they're thinking, then I know what's going on in their brain. So I don't think it would be necessarily a bad thing. And we actually do some of that with the Yale close. We do use some of that in the Yale close as much as we can. So we do leverage it, but it's going to be weaker than it is on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, I was just thinking along the lines, and pardon my my nasal, I've got a cold. I was just thinking along the lines that it could cut to the chase a little bit more quickly, especially if the individuals there at the meeting do give some kind of commitment.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't think it would necessarily be a bad thing at a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, the reason I made it, well, I just think that in a group seminar in that setting, well, I guess it would depend on why that group was in front of me. If they came to a public seminar, they didn't come to be sold.
Right.
And this kind of feels like you're being on that kind of seminar without all this other stuff that we do during that one-on-one meeting prior to that. By doing the stuff that we do in the prior to that, this does not feel like you're being sold at a one-on-one meeting.
Okay.
But at a seminar, this may feel a little
little like that.
yes.
Okay.
So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I would certainly try it. I guess I just wouldn't be and we do a little bit with the Yale close that we have, but I would be just a little bit skittish about trying that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to access any of the materials yet because I'm still waiting to get green lighted. So
Okay.
But I thought I'd ask the question.
Yeah, well, no, that's like, you know what? The way my opinion is this, is that if I'm going to make a mistake, I'm the opposite of what a lot of advisors are. If I'm going to make a mistake, I'll make a mistake getting a commitment versus a mistake of being too easy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather, if I was going to make a mistake, I would rather make a mistake like you're talking about there, which is to go for a stronger commitment than a weaker commitment. And Missy can validate this. When I was doing seminars, my closing ratio, my best closing ratio was 28%. I never got more than 28% of the people to come and see me. That was my, but those people that came to see me, they were committed. So maybe I'm telling you shouldn't do it, and I actually was doing it to a certain degree.
Right.
So maybe it would be a good thing to do. But for most guys, you just have to be extremely confident at what you're doing in order to do it in a group setting.
Right. Okay. And the other thing, just one other question. You mentioned RIAs, et cetera, non-user testimonials, which I am, but I'm also obviously an insurance agent. So I'm wearing both those hats, so I could actually use the testimonial underneath the insurance agent hat.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And the other way, just for the guys that are on the call that are fairly new, the other way that I use testimonials, that everybody can use testimonials, is I would do barbecues every single year for my clients or client get-togethers, and I took pictures of everybody, hundreds of pictures at those barbecues. And when you came into my room, the only art I had in my waiting room was collages of all the client get-togethers we'd had with tons of smiling faces on the wall. So now I didn't do like the used car dealer, where you go into a used car dealer and he's got Polaroids of all of his people lined up in a row, all of his victims lined up in a row. No, these were like art. They were collages of people having a great time at a barbecue. No names, no anything, but every time somebody would come in, Glenn, guess what they'd immediately do? They'd go to those pictures, and what do you think they were looking for?
For themselves.
For themselves, but how about prospects? What do you think they were looking for?
Anybody they knew.
Yes, and invariably they found somebody they knew. And how good was that? Between the testimonial letters and seeing somebody they knew with a smiling face before they came to...
It was a door spread wide open.
Exactly. So that's a testimonial that you could do as an RIA too, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, because they're not saying a single word, but a picture paints 1,000 words.
Yep, indeed.
Yep. Good questions.
And just to for those of you on the call who haven't gone to Clients IQ, I would sign up for it because it is phenomenal.
Isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And is it easy or hard to do?
It's so easy. It's if I can do it, it's easy.
Yeah, it's a fantastic service. I mean, and there's nothing out there like it. It really separates you from all the other advisors out there to be able to have access to that kind of a tool. So thanks for that.
Okay,
feedback.
thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks.
Anything else, Missy?
Jim had his hand up on and off, so Jim, I'm just going to open your phone line. If you have a question, go ahead and ask it.
All right, thank you. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Jim.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, I've got a couple questions on the epidemic marketing.
Yes.
Kind of off topic today, but you brought it up. But
yeah.
I'm curious as how often you feel you should contact even the suspects, prospects, and clients on this stuff, because there's so much, you can almost overload them on a monthly basis.
You would overload them if you're sending them stuff that's not interesting or financial, etc. Once you've looked at the epidemic marketing, you're going to find out that I write all that stuff myself, and I write it in a style that makes it interesting. And it's not about financial. It's not about selling. It's about things that they feel like they would want to share with their friends, neighbors, or relatives. So when you're doing that kind of thing, 3 times a month is not too much. Now, if instead I was sending them stuff saying, oh, here's my newsletter on family limited partnerships, and then 2 weeks later they get an email, here's some information on this great mutual fund, and then they get another email or something else that says, hey, this is a great annuity that I've got here. Guess how much too much that is.
Yeah.
So it's all about the material that you send them. And what I send with the epidemic marketing is stuff that's not necessarily financial. It's on the fringe of financial, and most importantly, it's stuff that they can read. It's like a church bulletin. So getting a church bulletin 4 times a month, is that too much?
For me.
But for most people, is it?
No, I get it.
When people leave the church, what does everybody? Most people, except for you, grab.
Yeah.
And see, and I write the stuff in a church bulletin mentality. And why do you think? If you look at my stuff, it's very simple. It's very quick. And the reason I do that is because it's a church bulletin mentality. It's about things that interest them. It's written by somebody that they know. It can be read in 5 minutes. It's that kind of stuff they'll take all day long. But boring financial crap, no. 1 is too much per month.
So even a monthly newsletter, financial type newsletter, would be, you think, is too often or too much information?
Well, here's my
wrong
opinion.
Type of information.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example of that. And I had to fight. There's a guy I worked with for 10 years in New York City, and he fought me on this because he works with very sophisticated clients, being from New York City. And he said, Mike, your newsletter is just too hokey. It's too amateurish. It's too whatever. I said, I do that on purpose. Do you really think I don't have the assets to make a beautiful newsletter? But here's the analogy I give him. I say, listen, when I go to the doctor and I have a twisted knee, if I go to the doctor and I have a twisted knee and the doctor says, here, let me see that, and he's poking and prodding and saying, well, doctor, I read in the New England Journal of Medicine that, when there's this kind of a knee problem, you should do this, that. What is the doctor thinking at that point? Is he happy or not happy?
What about the guy having a twisted knee?
No, the guy that has a twisted knee says, as the doctor's prodding his knee, says to the doctor. Now, this is the patient saying to the doctor, yeah, doctor, I just read in the New England Journal of Medicine that when you have a knee problem like this, it could be the ACL or it could be this, and this is the kind of therapy you should have, and this is going to... What's the doctor thinking at that point?
Just that he doesn't want to deal with the guy.
Yeah, he does not want to deal with the guy. Just shoot me is what he's thinking. And here's my point. People that read financial newsletters are do-it-yourselfers, know-it-alls, and pains in the ass. The people I want to deal with are people that are reading golf magazines, gardening magazines, playing bridge, playing golf, playing with their family, because who are they relying on for their financial information?
Hopefully me.
Yes. So guess what they don't read? To them, a financial newsletter is boring as hell, and guess what? When you send those people financial newsletters, 1 a month is too much, because guess what they do? They get it, and they think, oh, why do you waste sending this to me? And he throws it right in the garbage. Okay. Now, when Greg did this in New York, he fought it, and his wife said, no, try it. His wife said, no, try it. After 3 months of using my crappy newsletter, and when I say crappy, it's not crappy, it's just amateurish. It's on purpose. Because he was sending a 5-page, slick, beautiful, 5-color, nice paper. That's a newsletter to be sending for like 3 or 4 years prior to doing that. Within 3 months, he'd gotten more business from my homemade newsletter than he'd gotten from his fancy smancy one that he was paying through his nose for in the whole 3-4 years that he'd been using it. Because people started to read it. There's no sense sending something out if nobody's going to read it. And the only people that are going to read that fancy financial newsletter about family limited partnerships or what other kind of crap that they put in there are people that I don't want to deal with. And I'll tell you, the final straw for me was a guy coming in, and he spent an hour and 15 minutes picking my brain about a family limited, that's why I keep saying family limited partnership, a family limited partnership, that article that I sent out, in a nice fancy newsletter, and in the end, guess how much money I found out he had? 50 grand.
Probably none.
Yeah, 50 grand. So does a family limited partnership really apply to somebody with 50 grand?
No.
No. But boy, he loved the idea of it, and he loved to pick my brain. No. I hate financial newsletters. I don't read them myself, and I'm in the business. So that's my lowly opinion on fancy schmancy financial newsletters.
Well, one more question on that, and I'll let you go. Do you suggest, I've got a number of people I've had on a list and ready to go. They've known me, I know them. But do you have any type of introduction email or letter to these people, or you just start sending it to them?
I just start sending it. We do have one, don't we, Missy? But I wouldn't even bother. I would just start sending them to them.
Yep, there is one out there. It's underneath it's called the POC introduction letter. That's the personal organization kit that goes with the newsletters. But yes, there is one available.
Okay.
Where did they find that again? Let me see if I can.
Yep, it's out on underneath the epidemic marketing section on the website.
If you want, I can go there. But yeah, if you go to the epidemic marketing, and it'll see. If you have any problem, just email us at support. We'll get you set up with that.
All right.
Does that
All right,
make sense? Super duper. Any other questions, Missy?
That looks like everything for now.
Excellent. Was this a good call, guys?
Yeah.
Good. Super.
Yeah.
Steve, again, I appreciate helping me out and for the questions afterwards and everything else. So I appreciate it very much, guys. Have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you next Monday. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.